Our Story Productions presents Martin County on TV, spotlighting the organizations, businesses, and citizens who are making a difference in our community today. And with interviews and stories done by local television shows over the last 25 years, here you're sure to learn more about the county we call home. Get ready, for this is Martin County on TV. Hi, this is Jeff Rouse, executive producer of Our Story Productions. We're just getting ready to shoot some new shows of Martin County on TV. We haven't shot any for a while because of the coronavirus. We're glad to be back. Hope you enjoy the new shows. Some of the ones we're going to be showing in the near future will be from before the virus and some after. We hope you enjoy them all. Well, we're very excited today to have some guests you're sure to recognize from Day Plumbing. Today we have
Bill Krumholz,
Leo Krumholz,
Len Krumholz.
Absolutely a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks, Jeff.
And I know the three of you have been in business here in our community for a long time. You, sir, maybe even a little longer than the boys, but a long time for sure. Can you tell me a little bit about how all this started and some of your early days, sir?
Well, I lived on a farm out by East Shane, and I worked for a plumber part-time.
Okay.
And he closed up shop, and I started looking for another job, so I ended up working for Long and Manning. And that worked out pretty well, because I was working nights and Sundays.
Whatever had to be done, huh? And can I ask you, sir, your age?
They tell me I'm 95, but I don't hardly believe it.
That's awesome.
I feel it, but
Well, you're looking great, and got your boys with you, and they were in the business too, I know. So tell us, gentlemen, a little bit about the history of how the family came together in this type of business.
Us boys would help Dad when we were very young, maybe 12 years old. You were ready to go with and get out of Mom's hair, and so we'd trade off. There was three boys, and all basically learned the trade and tools and fittings that way. And then when we got older, we did our training, technical schools, different jobs, traveling pipe fitter jobs.
And what years would this have been?
The 60s is, okay. I graduated high school in 69, and then went to a 2-year technical school, and then did several other jobs before coming back to Dad's business.
Okay. And Bill, did you start in that same realm, same period, or a smidgen later, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I graduated in 1981, and
81, he's just a kid, isn't he?
In high school, I never really knew what I wanted to do, and Leonard encouraged me. He says, go to school for air conditioning and refrigeration.
Sure.
So I did that, and that was in 81, 82, 83, and about that time, Len was working out west, and came back to Minneapolis and was working for the union up there. And Dad had worked for 33 years for Iowa Electric Light and Power, and they sold Fairmont's branch, and he either had to move to Iowa or take early retirement. So he was always plumbing Saturdays and at nights. So he just took early retirement and started plumbing full time.
And what year would that have been?
83.
83. Okay. So you were with Light and Power for 30-some years. That's a long time.
33, yeah.
33 years before you started the family business, so to speak.
That's right.
Very cool.
But he did have a plumbing license that whole time.
Sure.
And always dabbled, and we did too with him.
Sure. Is plumbing something you've always wanted? Was that your business of choice even when you're young, or did you develop that?
it was always quite by accident.
Me too.
That's right. That's usually the way, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sure your business has changed a lot over the years. Can you give me a couple examples of how that's changed?
Materials for sure has advanced and become more efficient, easier to work with, specialty tools to make it easier, and certainly technology has grown tremendously and has affected almost everything we touch. There's advancements, so a lot of learning curve through the years.
So
training.
Some of the early days, what how many truck? You just had a truck for the family business?
Just a van that I bought.
Sure.
Used and
Well, I remember it was a station wagon way back,
go way back to that. Yeah, I had a Studebaker once and
a Rambler.
Ford truck with a topper.
Nats Rambler.
Yeah, camper topper.
Well, not a Studebaker. It was a Rambler. It wasn't a Studebaker. It was a Rambler station wagon.
I had a Studebaker too one time.
He
You
did.
did.
I took it and
Okay.
stripped the paint off it and painted it black and tuned it all
That
up.
was
Made it the company vehicle.
Yep.
Absolutely. So in the early days, it was just like we talked about. It was just or not just, but it was a family business.
True.
When did you start? Did you bring on some people before you retired? And what year did you retire, sir?
I think it was like 79
Oh,
that he retired from the gas company. And then he was plumbing for a couple years, and he got so busy that's when he called Leonard and said, "Hey, come on down." And I was going to school,
sure.
so 83 is when we all got together. And
But I remember in high school and earlier, he would take a 2-week summer vacation from the electric power company and do plumbing in Fairmont, and he would have certain people he could call that would help him. So
Okay.
they were hired hands or...
Tell me about working with your boys. How was that experience?
Awful.
Yeah, that's a two-way street.
I loved my life because I got along good with the boys and I needed the help. And he was a air conditioning guy, and Leonard was a plumber, jack of all trades. He was a master plumber, so it worked out really good for me.
Awesome. Very
Yeah,
cool.
so I asked him, I want to start a business and I want to hire you. And he says, well, he said, I can't go to work for you. He said, I could get a job tomorrow for X amount of dollars, and you can't match that. And that was true. But it wasn't long, and it blew over, and he decided to go to work for me, and that's what put it in gear. And that's what started the whole ball rolling.
Awesome. So Dad talked you into coming into the family business, and here you are today.
Well, that year there was a recession, and interest rates, it was about 83, were 19%, and a lot of the
remember.
construction in the America and other places had slowed way down. So it looked like a good opportunity at the time. And it was. Turned out to be very good.
Cool. Now you're retired now, is that
I
correct?
retired 3 years ago.
All right. Are you enjoying retirement?
I love it, yes, it's good.
Very cool.
Do I miss the business? Yes, some of it. Some parts of it, yes, some no.
And today, yes, sir.
And it's Leonard's birthday today.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. 7-0, the big one.
A big, a marker birthday.
I guess it
Just
is.
a kid, isn't he?
The pup.
That's right. So, and share with us today what's happening with the business today.
Well, we have 23 employees, and we're doing a lot of bathroom remodeling and putting a lot of furnaces and air conditioners in, rooftop units, and a lot of plumbing service.
Sure.
We got typically every day we've got 4 people just doing service calls.
And you said how many employees?
23.
Wow, that's a lot of responsibility
Yeah.
and organization skills.
Yeah, it is. It's
Well, and I've done business with you over the years, and a very, very well-run organization, very well-run, and good people, good people. So,
yeah.
How many bands did you end up with at the time when you really got rolling? A van for every man?
Well, yes, at one time we had 30 vehicle license that we were purchasing. Some of those trucks were haulers or that would sit and use just for hauling trailers and so
Sure.
forth, your machines. And I'd like to add, too, that when Bill and I came into the business at basically the same time, and Dad was the only other employee, there was a business established. There was old-time customers from his years of helping, and we didn't hardly have to advertise because it was an automatic. There was a business in place, and so it was quite a leg up right away to jump into something.
A lot of our customers, Dad had been doing plumbing for them for 30 years.
wow.
Old-time farm friends of mine who lived on a farm up at Rose Lake.
So you service farming community and...
Pretty well known.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. Well, he must have been doing a good job. They kept asking you back.
Lucky.
But then a lot of those customers had kids, and now we're still plumbing for the children of Dad's original customers.
Wow.
So
Probably even sometimes the grandkids.
yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
They're replacing furnaces now that I put in.
Right.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's kind of it's fun to go into a house and you look at the furnace, and there will be writing on the furnace from Dad, back in the 70s. He'll write down what the temperature was, what the weather was outside, and what he did to the furnace.
From 50 years ago.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And one thing about today's furnaces, they're way lighter in weight and size than they were when he put them in.
I can imagine when you were putting them in, they must have been a challenge to get in that basement or that room.
Coming in pieces.
Great big old heat pipes were this big around. One of my jobs was to tear that furnace down and re-cement it. Start it over because it was leaking. And tear all the dusty old pipes
Asbestos.
down. And asbestos pipes. And
Oh, sure.
Yeah, he'd go down in a basement to pack asbestos on a boiler and carry down a 30-pound bag of asbestos, tear it open, dump it in the trough, mix it up with
Really?
water, and then pack it on the boilers.
With the modern technology we live in now, I'm sure you have a Facebook page, a website, and different ways to contact. Tell us about that.
Well, dayplumbing.com, and we do have a Facebook page, Day Plumbing, and
Okay. On your website, do you have product on there? What kind of things can they see on the website?
yeah, it's in the process of being changed, but there should be employees on there and products, what we sell, and
Awesome.
about just about the business and history and all
Little
that.
history. Yeah, awesome. So, in your retirement, are you staying close to home or are you traveling?
I own a home in Florida, so I split the time between both, and we like to travel as well out west mainly, and so enjoying all aspects of it.
That's good for you. Well, again, gentlemen, thank you very much for being on today, and we'll look forward to having you on again someday soon.
Martin County on TV Flashback.
Hello, I'm Brian Peterson, the host of our story, The State of the Arts, the show that takes you behind the scenes of many of our greatest local entertainment, featuring performing artists and visual artists from many walks of life. And tonight, here in the Fairmont Film Society, in our very own Moonlight Cabaret, we have guest artists Bradley Greenwald and Jayson Engquist, starring two of Fairmont's very own, what shall I say, boys who grew up to be big stars in their own right. First, I'd like to ask Jay, tell us a little bit about having grown up in Fairmont and then what happened in your life.
Well, here I was playing my little fingers off. And I used to play in Mrs. McEwen's voice studio. She lived over off of Woodland Avenue, and she said, "You've got to select a college." This is in about the 8th grade. I said, "You got to be kidding." "No, it's time to start looking." So I ended up at St. Olaf, and then one thing led to another, and I moved to Minneapolis, and then all of a sudden a job in Greenwich, Connecticut opened, and that's how I moved to Connecticut.
Wasn't there a little Yale University involved with
That was later. Yeah, I did my graduate studies at Yale, but I first moved to Greenwich, Connecticut for a job. Believe it or not, for the money.
Jay, can you tell us a little bit about your association with the incredible Betty Kurtz of Fairmont?
My first organ teacher, Betty Lou Nelson Stone Porter Kurtz Shear. Who can forget that woman? No one. And I remember the day well. I was swimming in the yacht club pool, and my mother approached Betty. Now, she was some lady. So this was with trepidation and nervousness, and asked if her lowly, humble little son could take organ lessons. And she agreed. And that was the start of a wonderful friendship of probably 30 years.
Bradley, would you please give us some background? What happened in your life that propelled you to where you are now?
Well, when I was 5 and Jay was 35, no. Actually, when I was a little boy, Jay used to play for my mom occasionally, and I think that's how I first got to learn Jay, because Jay was the piano whiz kid in town, and my mom used to sing on Annabelle Webb's show.
And what was your mom's name?
Maxine Greenwald. And that's how I got my start too, because I would always go to Annabelle's house on Albion Avenue, 705 Albion Avenue, and my mom would sing every once in a while on her show, and I would sit under the card table and collect I was telling Jay this yesterday, I would collect the paper commercial copy that she would read and then toss, and I would make a little pile of it under the thing. And one day she asked me if I wanted to sing, and my mom, I was 4. I think I was 4.
Had you sung before? Had
No.
anyone heard your voice?
I don't think so.
Had you been practicing?
No, at 4, probably more than I practice now. But Annabelle asked me to sing, and my mom said she blanched because she didn't know what was going to happen. And since I had 4 very much older siblings, she wasn't sure what was going to come out of my mouth on the radio. And I did "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" on Annabelle's show. And Annabelle asked me back, and I started singing. And Annabelle Webb convinced my mom to have me audition for a Civic Summer Theater production, Gypsy, I think, when I was 5. I was a newspaper boy.
And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to tell you that our very own Bradley Greenwald left Fairmont, and as humble as he is probably one of the biggest stars today on the Minneapolis-St. Paul scene in both theater and voice, both classically trained voice and in musical theater. We are thrilled to have these two guys here today. Now, Jay, would you tell us what's happening in New York and what are you up to these days?
I'm still running around like a fool, doing all kinds of playing for people. And I just, in fact, I don't know if you know who Kurt Mazur is.
Of course.
But his wife, Tomoka, is a friend of mine, and she just called the day before yesterday and is doing a recital. And her regular pianist is in Montreal, so I'm going over there on Monday.
Brad, what is one of the latest projects that you did in Minneapolis?
The last show I did in Minneapolis was A Year with Frog and Toad at the Children's Theater Company. And before that, 1776 at the Guthrie, and various performances with Theatre de la Jeune Lune, which is a French theater company in the city.
You know, there's another interesting story that Jayson Engquist has that I discovered earlier last summer when he was back in Fairmont at the Red Rock Center, helping to christen the new Steinway that they have there. Jay, what was your association with Benny Goodman?
Oh, I was his private secretary for a number of years, in the last years of his life, in fact.
And we're talking about the Benny Goodman, the great band leader.
Yep, the clarinet player, big band leader. He lived in Stamford, Connecticut, and through a friend, he called me up one day. I thought he was kidding. I said, he said, "This is Benny Goodman." I said, "Oh, right." And it really was. And he invited me over and basically invited me to live in his house and become his personal secretary, which I did for 3 years.
And you also accompanied him on piano.
I ended up, yes, he didn't even know that I played piano at the time when he invited me over, actually.
We want to really thank Mr. Bradley Greenwald and Mr. Jayson Engquist for coming on our story, State of the Arts, tonight at the Fairmont Film Society.
Martin County on TV Flashback.
Okay, I'm so excited because now I get to go on a train ride. I'm going all the way out to Seattle to see Bill Gates because I hear that he's retiring, and I'm going to get the news first this time. Oh, this sign says "to the trains." This is easy. I like this. I can do this now. I'm very excited. I've never been on a train before. This is going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait. I hope I can get my baggage checked. And where are the trains? Where are all these little bitty trains? I can't sit on these little bitty trains. What's going on? I'm supposed to take a big train to Seattle. This is the Model Railroad Club? Oh no, I messed it up again. Okay, I'm back. We're here at Our Story Studios. I'm with Quade. We're going to talk about the Fairmont Model Railroad Club. So Wayne, can you tell me a little bit, what is the Fairmont Model Railroad Club?
Well, basically, it's a group of guys that have a great deal of interest and passion for model railroading. And they've been able to take this up on a format where the public can see it, and it's not just a home layout. And they've built an extensive layout, and it's just an amazing club to be part of.
Okay, all right. So can you tell me a little bit about how the club formed and where you're at?
Well, in the late 70s, they were a modular club, and they were moving around a lot, and they ran into a lot of problems with that situation, and they eventually found a place that they could settle in on and have a permanent layout. And with over a ton of plaster and over a half a mile of track, it is definitely a permanent layout.
Okay. Where's it located right now?
It's right now it's at 301 Downtown Plaza, and we're generally meeting at Tuesday night, so we have a lot of fun with that layout.
Okay. This is open to the public, right? People can come in?
On a Tuesday night, they could stop down anytime. Otherwise, we have open houses at the dates that we plan for.
Okay. So explain, what does the layout look like? What's the whole thing about there when you get down there?
Well, when we first started the layout, we didn't want to get over Pacific in certain areas geographically, so we decided that the layout would be anywhere USA. And so we've included a lot of fun things with that idea. We've got anywhere from Mount Rushmore, we've got open pit mining, we've got timber harvesting industries, just a great array of different facets of real railroading that's reflected down into the model area.
Okay, and now do the members themselves bring in their own trains? Is that what they're using? Their own trains and their own tracks when they do that?
Yes, and that is part of where a lot of members are able to really buy into the layout. They're able to bring their own stock. A new member who happened to have a Christmas train layout, he could bring his Christmas train down there and run it. A modeler that's been in it for years and years and has a great deal of rolling stock can bring that down. And it's just a lot of fun to mix some of that stock up, and a lot of guys have a lot of fun with that.
Okay. So what you're talking about is it doesn't have to be fancy, brand new, huge trains. It can be the same ones you got as a kid for Christmas. You can bring those in on it?
In fact, I still have some of the cars that I got when I was a junior in high school, and I still have them, and they run down there.
Oh, really? Oh, it's great. So it's kind of interesting to hear that this hobby that starts with kids for most of us goes on for adults, and it's not something that you have to look away from. It's actually accepted.
Oh yeah, and it's a lot of fun. Everybody has different areas of talent and different areas of interest that they enjoy with the hobby. And I think that's the great thing about model railroading. You can enjoy any facet of that hobby and really develop it. And it really takes a life of its own, and it's a lot of fun.
Okay. Now, obviously, you can be a member for this organization too. So what's the membership like there right now?
It's a great group of guys. We're willing to accept any new members or prospectives that want to join us. And we've been around each other long enough to know that we're not all that serious about some of the banter and some of the things that are said. It's all said in fun, and we have a lot of fun as a group of people. And I think that's one of the more interesting things of the club, is that the people from such diversities are so interesting to be mixed together like that with one common theme, and that's our interest in model railroading.
Okay, that's really great to know. So when is it that you guys meet, and where again do you meet?
Well, usually we meet at Tuesday, and that could start as early as 7 o'clock in the evening, and it could go on as late as till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. We meet at the club, which is 301 Downtown Plaza, and we're in the basement down there. And it's a sight to see. It's really hard for me to describe this to you just this way until you get down there and see it. And it's really hard even for a camera to do it justice because it's so immense. And one of the most used phrases when people come in through the door is, wow.
That's great. That's good to hear. Wayne, I appreciate you coming in and talking to us about it.
Thank you very much for having me.
You bet. This is Mike Alert for Our Stories here at Our Story Studios.
Martin County on TV Flashback.
Lenny Tweeden for This Is Our Story from Out of the Past. Today we're in the schoolroom of the Pioneer Museum. I'm going to visit with Helen Gould, and she's going to tell us about the history of the Fairmont Public Schools. And Helen, tell us a little bit about yourself first.
Okay, as you said, my name is Helen Gould, and I'm born in Fairmont. I graduated from Fairmont High School. I've been serving on the Fairmont School Board for about 26 years, so I have a very strong interest in our school system.
And you should have pretty good knowledge about public schools in Fairmont.
I think so.
Okay, we're going to take a look at some pictures. And first of all, we're looking at some buildings. Can you say something about these buildings, maybe the past history of these?
Sure. The first picture that you see has 3 buildings on it. And these 3 buildings were located on Park and Blue Earth Avenue. And the very first graduating class was in 1889 with 12 members, and they graduated from the school at that location. The district was actually formed in 1862 when the county commissioners formed our district, and it was called District Number 1.
And the first school is located in the same area where Central School or Presentation College
Yes,
is now?
that's right. And so then they ended up building a new high school in 1900 on that same block, which is the picture you see later there by itself. And then it later became the junior high when there was a new high school built that is on the 2nd Street and Prairie Avenue. And then that one became the junior high, as I said, when that became the senior high.
And then moving on, we see what looks like where Presentation College is located now?
That's true. No, that isn't. That's the school that you see there is the one that was burned down.
All right, that's the one that doesn't exist anymore.
Right, and was the high school from 1915 to 1969.
Okay. Then we'll move on to the building that's where Presentation College is located.
That's right. Then after they added a junior high onto that senior high that was on 2nd Street and Prairie, and then took down all 3 of the buildings, and we now have what became Central School and is currently Presentation College. So, and that served as a central school until it became an administrative building in the 70s, and then in 2004, rather, the city bought it and remodeled it into the current Presentation College.
All right, let's move on to the other buildings. These look like...
Actually, this building that shows all these composites of pictures in the upper left-hand corner is the first grade school, which was Lincoln School, and that was built on North Avenue, and it stayed in existence until 1949, and then it became the Lincoln Annex when the new Lincoln School was built, and then in 1974, it became, was purchased by the Alcoholics Anonymous group. So that's still it, and now it's been purchased by someone who is remodeling and maybe turning it into a bed and breakfast or something exciting. But that next picture, though, is that Lincoln School building, which was built in 1949 and then replaced that early Lincoln School, which was the first one.
Okay, and the next one is
William Budd School, and they were actually both built about the same time because it was actually kind of a controversy. William Budd was planned to be built first, and some people felt that they needed a new school also then on the north side, and so they were both built at the bond issue was approved for both. And so it was about 49, 50, they weren't all finished at the same time, and they were neighborhood schools, so there was Central Neighborhood School for K through 6, Lincoln K through 6, and Budd K through 6, and currently Budd is just for K through 2nd grade.
Yeah, the architecture looks very similar in both of those buildings.
Same time frame, so they were.
All right, the next picture is of what is currently Five Lakes Elementary.
Yes, and it was built, first of all, as a high school. In 1957, the first class graduated from that school. And then that old high school that was on the 2nd and Prairie became a junior high. And then we had the infamous fire in 1970, and so that junior high building was burned, and it was required to have 2 sessions of school at that one that you saw.
This is a shot of the fire, or the results of the fire?
The top part of it shows things hanging from the building from the fire, and the lower picture, if you look in the front, it shows all those temporary buildings that had to be added onto Victoria School to hold classes. So that's what you're seeing down there. And so they had senior high met from 7 in the morning till noon, and junior high met from noon until 5. Some people kind of liked that arrangement after they got used to it.
Open the door for some kids that maybe wanted to work
Sure.
part of the time.
Right.
Sure. Okay, next it looks like the dedication of the high school in 1972.
Right. Actually, it was dedicated in 73. They probably started working on it in 72. But and this auditorium was a rather state-of-the-art auditorium at the time, and it holds 1,000 people. And the city felt that we needed a very good auditorium also, because the only other auditorium was in the school that was burned down. So there was a lot of support for having a very fine auditorium. And that school is still in existence. It started to be for 9 through 12, and then they added 8 through 12, and currently it's 7 through 12 out there. And
well, it's evolved over time.
in 1992, Ceylon joined at Fairmont, and their students have also been a very welcome addition into that high school. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for watching. This is Lenny Tweeden for Our Story from Out of the Past.
Martin County on TV Flashback.
Well, there you have it, another episode of Martin County on TV. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we welcome you to tune in again. Thank our sponsors for making this happen, and remember, it's not just the past, but the present that tells our story.